Now listen up, what if I told you that this is what the peak MMO experience looks like in 2025? And we've got stats to prove it. You're probably in one of two camps. Either you're vigorously nodding your head with hundreds or thousands of hours in this game, or you're on the other side, completely confused by the mechanical and visual jank in front of you. And to be honest, both reactions are valid, but to prove to you that something truly remarkable is happening here, Old School Runescape is the only MMO to have an interest trend that looks like this, and a player population graph that looks like this. Because every other MMO is bleeding players, or at best, treading water. While other MMOs are in a managed decline, Old School RuneScape is exploding. And the fact that it's doing all of this while looking like this means it's doing something extraordinary that every future MMO developer should be paying attention to. Because the graveyard of AAA MMOs that were canceled in the last year alone is painting an incredibly bleak picture for the future of the genre as a whole, with pretty much every Western AAA MMO being canceled except for Riot's. So I'm hoping everyone on Riot's development team has put some time into Old School RuneScape so they can truly understand how an MMO like this can knock heavy hitters like World of Warcraft onto its heels. So how is it that one single MMO has consistently grown its player base over the last 10 years while every other MMO has struggled to survive? I'm glad you asked. The first and possibly the largest single contributor to Old School RuneScape's success is its infamous voting system. Developers are human. They have bad ideas, and sometimes they have horrible ideas. In order for the developers of Old School RuneScape to add new quests, skills, or quality of life changes, they have to convince the player base that it's worth it. Unlike every other MMO on the market, the developers are not allowed to unilaterally decide what will be added to the game. This acts as a simple litmus test for every piece of content they want to add to the game, and a massive filter to catch bad ideas before developers waste time and money on them. In order for a vote to pass, the developers need to obtain a supermajority. That means that 70% of the votes cast must be in favor of the change. If the players vote no, sometimes the developers throw the idea out entirely, and other times they'll take the players' feedback, refine the idea, sharpen it, and then propose it again. How many times have you watched an MMO expansion announcement and thought to yourself, that's a horrible idea? And then you check the internet and the community is also saying that's a horrible idea. And to no one's surprise, the expansion releases and it was in fact a horrible idea, just like everyone thought it would be. Imagine being able to veto those ideas. Imagine being able to veto WoW's decision to start selling mounts in the cash shop, or being able to veto ESO's decision to add loot crates to the game. These decisions fundamentally changed the way the developers designed the entire game and their reward structures going forward. What if instead every epic item you saw someone wearing was something that you could go out and earn? Something you could look forward to? What if bosses and quests didn't reward you with milquetoast looking items to compel you to spend time in the cash shop buying something better looking? Which brings us to critical item number 2, Old School RuneScape's microtransaction system. And it's only fair that I provide a trigger warning for the accountants at Blizzard and ZOS and every other MMO studio. You might want to look away. Here it is. Here's every microtransaction in RuneScape. As you can see, there is exactly one purchase available, the Old School RuneScape Bond. This is essentially a subscription for the game. You can buy it from the developer with real-life money, or you can buy it from another player with in-game currency. If you're coming from WoW, this works exactly the same way as the WoW token. You'll notice there are no cosmetics or XP enhancers or inventory extenders. The monetization model takes us back to what was great about gaming before microtransactions, when the game was allowed to reward you with the coolest items because it wasn't trying to sell them to you in the cash shop. And by the way, back when MMOs were at their peak in popularity, this was the norm. When the MMO genre was at its peak, MMOs weren't selling you everything you were excited about wearing. Now here's when the first purchasable mount was added to the game. Now I'm not saying that this decision single-handedly caused the collapse of World of Warcraft's population from its highs, but I am absolutely saying it's part of it. Gaming is about one thing: dopamine. That's the thing that tells your body you're having a good time and you want to do more of that thing. And the single largest dopamine hits from MMOs come from finding that epic looking cape drop, or that badass looking sword, or that awesome mount. And when you got that item, you wore it with pride, because not only did it make you look good, but it also was a badge of honor. It said that you completed that piece of content. You killed that epic boss. In the rest of MMOs today, someone's appearance doesn't tell you anything other than how many times they swiped their credit card after the last cash shop update. And that's a massive loss for the sense of progression in that game, as well as the sense of community. MMOs completely erode their own dopamine moments by removing them from the game and placing them all in the cash shop. In fact, no one knows this better than Jagex, the very people that made Old School Runescape. They have two versions of the same game. One is called RuneScape 3, and one is called Old School RuneScape. The primary difference between Old School RuneScape and RuneScape 3? The cash shop. And yeah, the combat's also noteworthy, but that's another story for another video. RuneScape 3 added every form of microtransaction that you can think of: pay to progress faster, cosmetic abominations, and things that are simply pay to win. Basically, it added all of the things you see in just about every MMO's cash shop today. And it didn't have the Old School RuneScape voting system to prevent all of these ideas from being added to the game. And predictably, its population imploded. Recently, the population crisis in RuneScape 3 with all of its microtransactions got so bad that Jagex got desperate. And they took a page out of the Old School RuneScape playbook and put the removal of the most hated microtransaction in the game up for a vote. The players instantly voted to remove this microtransaction known as Treasure Hunter. This is a loot box system where players could pay real money to open loot boxes that could have rewards in them, ranging from everything from cosmetics to pay-to-win items. On top of that, the cosmetics weren't even purely cosmetic. They had things like XP boosts on them. So basically, one game forked into two games. And the one with this cash shop went on to dominate the entire MMO landscape, while the one with the typical MMO cash shop failed miserably. Jagex unintentionally performed the most important experiment in MMO history, and the results were deafening. And you know what? There isn't a gamer in the world that is surprised by the outcome, but apparently there were a lot of suits behind a lot of MMO studios that were. And speaking of fairly monetized games, you've got to check out another brand new action RPG, Duet Night Abyss, where you're exiled and struggling to survive with epic battles versus demons. Melee or ranged, it's up to you. You'll create your lineup, then utilize the game's high mobility while mastering your abilities to delete hordes of enemies. And don't worry, combat skills have no cooldowns, so this is a fast-paced game. This is a high-quality, voice-acted, dark story for you to get lost in and explore the vibrant and beautiful world through the experiences of two different characters as they try to make sense of everything happening around them. Best of all, the game doesn't have those annoying stamina lock systems or those weapon and character gacha systems that ruin so many games these days. Instead, the monetization is completely fair, with them only charging you for cosmetics. So if you're looking for a fun adventure to dive into for free, download Duet Night Abyss now using the link in the description, and you'll be able to unlock 7 free characters through launch events and gameplay. And for a limited time, you can enjoy 55 free pulls for cosmetics. This game's completely free, a ton of fun, and it's fairly monetized. So you've got nothing to lose by trying it out while you watch some YouTube videos. Shout out to Duet Night Abyss for sponsoring this segment. Now let's get back to the video. But of course, it's more than just the monetization that makes Old School RuneScape great. Circling back to that feeling of accomplishments in MMOs, imagine if when you did finally achieve something and you did finally get that epic loot or that epic drop, imagine if it wasn't completely invalidated in the next patch. What if that item that you worked so hard for and were so excited to finally have stayed relevant for decades? In Old School RuneScape, you can still rock that Bandus drop from a decade ago, alongside your new items dropping this year. In fact, the developers have tried to add items that were too powerful, and the players voted no and kept them in check. If you're used to vertical gear progression in MMOs like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV, you might be wondering what impact this might have on your sense of progression in the game. The critical difference is that this works because Old School RuneScape has so many other areas of progression. So many that you don't have to be put on a gear treadmill in order to still constantly feel like you're progressing. This is made possible through the game's unique progression system. You don't level up your character. Instead, every character has 23 different skill lines that they can level up, and each one of these 23 skill lines has 99 levels. That includes 7 skill lines in combat, such as attack, strength, defense, hit points, ranged, magic, and prayer, with attack increasing your accuracy with melee weapons and unlocking stronger gear, and prayer letting you use special prayers that boost your combat stats and provide protection. Then there are 5 different skill lines for gathering, such as mining, fishing, woodcutting, farming, and hunter, with mining and fishing doing exactly what you would expect, and hunter allowing you to trap creatures for materials, XP, and profit. That also includes 6 artisan skill lines, such as smithing, cooking, crafting, fletching, herb lore, and fire making, allowing you to cook meals for healing or craft armor or weapons or ammo. And finally, you've got 5 skills from utility, such as agility, thieving, slayer, construction, and runecraft, with agility improving your energy recovery and granting access to shortcuts in the game, thieving allowing you to steal from NPCs and stalls for loot and coins, slayer assigning you monsters to kill for XP and unique drops, construction letting you build and customize your player-owned house, and runecraft letting you create runes to be used in magic spells. As you can see, that's a ton of different skill lines to level up and tons of different progression, which means you aren't solely beholden to getting a new piece of gear that increases your damage by 0.01% to make yourself feel like you're moving somewhere. Now, leveling up all those skill lines is absolutely a grind, and it's definitely not for everybody, but it is rewarding. In fact, you're rewarded in a lot of different ways for leveling those skill lines, but perhaps most critically, a lot of the quests and the content in the game are locked behind skill levels. So if you haven't gotten the required skills to the required levels, you won't be able to participate in that content and get that sweet, sweet drop. And as a reminder, that drop oftentimes looks epic because there are no cosmetics sold in the game. So in order for your character to actually look epic, the things that drop from the bosses and from the quests actually need to look epic. Some of you watching this video might remember the days when every game was built that way, the days before cash shops even existed inside of games. Yeah, we're getting old. Now, the next interesting thing that Old School RuneScape does differently than other MMOs today has largely to do with the gameplay loop. Old School RuneScape is a sandbox MMO. This means there's no main story quest leading you straight through the game. Instead, there is a massive world with loads of quests that are just waiting for you to discover them. Usually you'll find one, which will require something you don't have. And so you'll go and find out how to get that item or that skill level, and then you'll return. This sends you all over the world in a very organic way. It also lets you create the adventure of your choosing. You focus on the things you want to focus on. And on the way, you'll have loads of casual and relaxing content that you can enjoy until you're ready to take on the next big boss or try and get to that next epic item. The order that you do things in and what level your skills are when you attempt them is up to you. If you want to overlevel your skills to make something easier, you can do that. Or if you want it to be more difficult and you want to head in straight away, you can go do that. This allows you to decide exactly how difficult you want the encounters to be. And yes, you can play through the game solo, which has no doubt contributed to its success. In fact, one of the most popular modes for this game is called Iron Man. In this mode, you can't party with random people and you can't buy things off of the auction house. Instead, all of your progress rests solely on your shoulders. Need a crafted item? You'll have to make it yourself, which means you'll have to level those crafting lines in order to make those items that you need. You'll also need materials to craft that item, which means you'll need to level the gathering lines in order to gather those materials. And in this way, you end up with an MMO where you need to engage with every aspect of the MMO genre, from gathering to crafting to combat and questing, again encouraging you to participate in all forms of the game's different progression systems. And as a result, you're never sad that you're not on the gear treadmill. In fact, you're happy to be rid of it, because now your progression is far more permanent. Your dopamine hits are much longer lasting, as you're leveling skill lines that are going to be relevant forever, instead of getting a gear drop that might be relevant for a day or a week and at best a single patch. Developers don't make MMOs without subscriptions to save you money. They make MMOs without subscriptions because they know they can make more money off of you that way. This way, players spend money buying solutions to the problems they created. They spend money to get a decent looking mount. They spend money on decent looking gear. They spend more money to accelerate their progress so that it's happening at a reasonable rate. They spend even more money so their gear doesn't fail when they're trying to upgrade it. Then with a straight face, that person tells you they're playing a free MMO. And then as fast as they swiped their credit card, they're bored of that game. And oftentimes they don't realize it's because they didn't earn anything interesting. And even more important, they have nothing interesting to look forward to earning. The satisfaction of a credit card swipe isn't the same as what you get from walking around town with that drop that you earned. When players go from cash shops that relentlessly pop up in your face, relentlessly wear you down until you cave and buy something, relentlessly make the game worse so that you'll pay more money just to make it playable, like going to the shoe store in real life, buying a pair of shoes, and then paying them to take the sand out of the shoes that they just sold to you. It's no wonder that when players finally boot up Old School RuneScape, they stick around. And when they do decide to try something else, they always come back. Old School RuneScape players have a saying: no one quits Old School RuneScape, they just take a break. What do you think about Old School RuneScape's success? And if you're someone that plays it, what is it that keeps you coming back? Thanks for watching, subscribe for more MMO analysis, and I hope to see you in the next video. If you're not sure what to do next, check out one of the videos that are on screen right now.